"This girl is really strange. Just because she got 98 points in the math test, she actually took off the fat man in front of the whole class." However, the students present didn't seem to notice this scene, and everything seemed so natural. What's even more strange is that when the male protagonist came back to his senses, he found that what happened a few minutes ago was repeating itself, and found that the test score was still 52 points, but the original score of 98 points had turned into a full score, which puzzled the male protagonist. At the end of the class, the male protagonist began to think about the strangeness of all this, and noticed that today he had seen In Feng take off his clothes-fitting clothes twice. It turned out that during the lunch break, the male protagonist secretly entered the sports warehouse and accidentally bumped into In Feng changing his clothes. This scene made the male protagonist unforgettable. Out of curiosity and inquiry, he decided to ask In Feng clearly. After seeing In Feng, the male protagonist directly asked, "Your score was obviously 98 points just now. Why did you get 100 points?" In Feng's eyes instantly became sharp and asked if the male protagonist had told others. After learning that the male protagonist did not disclose it to others, In Feng heaved a sigh of relief. However, the next second he suddenly hit the male protagonist, saying that because the male protagonist saw his private parts. It turns out that Eagle Peak has a superpower called the girl who has not yet touched no regrets. After taking off the fat thorn, he can make things happen as if they never happened, but this ability has two flaws. The first is that the underwear he takes off will disappear without a trace, and the second is that people who have seen his fat thorn will remember those things that happened. This ability is both an advantage and a disadvantage for In Feng because whether it is learning or sports, he has to do his best. In Feng explained that he discovered this ability when he was in the 5th grade. At that time, he won the 2nd place in the sports meeting because he ate a bad stomach. It was embarrassing that he was still incontinent, but he found that when he took off his pants, he came back to his senses and got the 1st place. Since then, he has been using this ability to maintain his advantage. After listening to In Feng's story, the male protagonist was shocked for 2.5 years. However, In Feng told the male protagonist that he needed a private wardrobe to manage his clothes because his underwear would disappear after using the ability and there was a threat of being seen when changing clothes. The male protagonist did not want to have anything to do with the girl with superpowers, so he decisively rejected him. But In Feng would not give up this opportunity easily, so he forced his fat man to be stained with the male protagonist's fingerprints and shouted indecent, causing a misunderstanding and confusion. Soon, a group of classmates rushed in and the girls called the police. With the hero's acting skills and superpowers, the male protagonist seemed destined to spend the rest of his life in prison. Just as the male protagonist was in despair, he heard the voice of the hero, "Let nothing happen," and the male protagonist suddenly realized that now he can only turn to the hero to activate his ability. In this way, the male protagonist who was tricked became the hero's personal wardrobe and could only be forced to accept this role.